This is Dennis Palumbo, author of the award-winning Daniel Rinaldi Mystery, and you're listening to the Dark and Stormy Book Club podcast.
Hello, and welcome to episode 226 of Dark and Stormy Book Club. We are thrilled to talk with Katy Reichs, the prolific author of 21 Temperance Brennan books. Her latest, Cold, Cold Bones, is number 21 in her series. She is also the creator of the Bones television series. Enjoy.
I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Cold, Cold Bones was released by Scribner on July 5th of 2022. Winter has come to North Carolina, and with it a drop in crime. Freed from a heavy work schedule, Tempe Brennan is content to dote on her daughter Katy, finally returned to civilian life from the Army. But when mother and daughter meet at Tempe's place one night, they find a box on the back porch. Inside, a very fresh human eyeball. GPS coordinates etched into the eyeball lead to a Benedictine monastery where an equally macabre discovery awaits. Soon after, Tempe examines a mummified corpse in a state park, and her anxiety deepens. There seems to be no pattern to the subsequent killings uncovered, except that each one mimics in some way a homicide that a younger Tempe had been called in to analyze. Who or what is targeting her and why? Helping Tempe search for answers is Detective Erskine Skinny Slidell, retired but still volunteering with the CMPD Cold Case Unit, and still displaying his gallows humor. Also pulled into the mystery, Andrew Ryan, Tempe's Montreal-based beau, now working as a private detective. Could this elaborately staged skein of mayhem be the prelude to a twist that is even more shocking? Tempe is at a loss to establish the motive of what's going on, and then Katy, her daughter, disappears. At its core, Cold, Cold Bones is a novel of revenge, one in which revisiting the past may prove the only way to unravel the present. Katy Reichs' first novel, Deja Dead, catapulted her to fame when it became a New York Times bestseller and won the 1997 Ellis Award. From teaching FBI agents how to detect and recover human remains, to separating and identifying commingled body parts in her Montreal lab as a forensic anthropologist, Katy Reichs has brought her own dramatic work experience to her mesmerizing thrillers. For years, she has consulted to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in North Carolina and continues to do so for the Laboratory of Judicial Science at the Médecine Légale for the province of Quebec. Dr. Reichs is a native of Chicago. She now resides and divides her time between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Montreal, Quebec. Her website is katyreichs.com. We are thrilled to welcome Katy Reichs to the program. She has a wonderful new book out called Cold, Cold Bones. Welcome, Katy.
Thank you for inviting me.
In Cold, Cold Bones, Katy, Tempe's daughter, seems to have to deal with PTSD resulting from her 2 military tours in the Middle East. How did you research that particular ailment?
I have a niece who is a psychologist, so she helped me a bit with the treatment end of it. I did a lot of research through colleagues primarily on the symptoms of it, also talking to some vets, the symptoms of it. And so just it was a combination of different people that helped me. I decided to do that with the Katy character via the Katy character, because I wanted to shine light on that, the PTSD aspect of what vets are suffering from, but also the homelessness. And in this book, Katy is kind of floundering what to do with herself now that she's out of the military. And she decides she wants to help veterans, particularly those with issues of homelessness.
Well, that's wonderful. I have a 2-part question for you because I'm very curious about this. In this book, someone etches on an eyeball.
Yeah.
Is that ever been done, and can it be done?
You know, in the writer's room for Bones, we used to talk about plausible. Is it plausible? And I think it's plausible that it could be done. And you do learn later in the book how it could be done and who might be likely to have this skill. I don't want to go into it because that would be a spoiler. But yes, I think it's plausible that it could be done with the person with the proper skill set.
In every book, you come up with an antagonist who is just horrible. Without giving too much away, how would you diagnose this one in this book particularly?
Oh, again, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but clearly what happens in this book is somebody is targeting our heroine, Temperance Brennan. It takes her a bit to figure that out, but she realizes that someone is mimicking her earlier cases and they're targeting her for revenge. For what purpose, she's not sure, but it would take a rather twisted and dedicated mind to put all of that effort into targeting someone and doing it in the way that this particular villain is doing it. Let me just leave it at that because I don't want to give too much away.
Is there anyone you modeled this person after? Just your answer made me think of Moriarty.
No, not really. With this book, what I wanted to do is revisit some of the earlier books. I thought this would be fun for my return readers. What thriller readers do is any mystery reader, I suppose, is they try to figure out the crime. You know, who's the villain? Why did they do it? How did they do it? But also in whodunit. But also with this book, they could have the fun of trying to figure out which of my earlier books I am harking back to, because that's what I'm doing here. I'm going back to earlier adventures in Temperance's career. So that, I very intentionally, it's kind of a meta thing that I did, bringing the earlier books into the current. Did that answer your question even remotely?
Yeah, sure.
And as I read the book, I started to remember a couple of the cases that were brought back to the fore, shall we say.
Yeah, and I thought that would be fun for the return readers to do that mystery within the mystery, but also it would be a way to give new readers, if this is the first book they've picked up, an idea of what the series is all about.
Very true. My question's a little bit off the subject of eyeballs and things, but why doesn't Tempe just murder her neighbor?
Well, she's not of a murdering nature, but she's about at the end of her case. She's got 2 neighbors in this book that play roles in the story. One is kind of a quirky, goofy guy. The other is a fairly mean-spirited character. So she is, as you imply in your question, infinitely patient with this man, but she's about at the end of her patience.
So maybe she'll kill him in the next book.
I don't know. Maybe that could be complicated.
Definitely know how to get away with it.
Yes, she's. If anybody could, it would be Temperance.
Maybe
Right.
someone else could kill him and she could just solve his murder.
She probably wouldn't want to, except to give the guy a medal or something.
Who came first? Skinny the cat or Skinny the character?
Oh, I've been thinking about it and I'm not really sure. Skinny, who's sitting here by my side, if you have any questions for him. Skinny he has an interesting story. I was away for the weekend. My husband and I were away and my grown kids were here. I have a pool and they had their friends over and had the weekend. And at the end of the weekend, people said to each other, "Don't forget your cat." And my son said, "Well, that's not my cat. I thought it was your cat." And then one said, "No, we thought it was your cat. We thought it was your cat." Skinny had just wandered in. Everybody thought he was somebody else's cat, and Skinny stayed. And he's been here now. I think Skinny's about 15, 14 or 15, maybe even 16. So that's an answer, partial answer. I don't know when I created Skinny Slidell, so I'm not sure which of them predates the other. But Skinny the cat's appearance and Skinny Slidell's creation are unrelated to each other. My cat, Skinny, was called Skinny because he's the skinniest cat I had ever seen. He was clearly living on the streets and not doing a very good job of it.
Well, he found a good home with you.
He did. He saw a good thing and said, "I'm staying. I'm here." And I don't think he's literally left the house. He doesn't go outside.
Question for Skinny. Dry or wet?
Both, although he gets dry in the morning because I'm too lazy. He sleeps with me, on me often. So I keep a dish in the drawer by the bedside and I just reach over, pull it out, stick it on the floor, and he has his breakfast that way and I don't have to fully wake up. At dinner, he gets wet food. And right now, by accident, or my daughter ordered a case of kitten food, which he does not need because he's no longer Skinny. He's getting kitten food now at dinner and he is loving it. All that extra fat or whatever they put in it.
Okay, back to the books.
Right.
In this book, Temperance becomes more amenable to working with others. She tended to work solo previously. Is this part of her character development? Will we continue to see her more compatible, shall we say?
Well, she's working with Skinny Slidell, not the cat. So Skinny it can be a little difficult. For the next book that I'm writing, there's kind of a Skinny counterpart up in Quebec called Luc Claudel. So she has difficulty working with those two because they both tend to be, Skinny Slidell's a bit of a redneck. He's a bit rigid. He's old-fashioned in his thinking, let's put it that way. But he's a good cop underneath it all. Other than those two, though, she's a pretty good team player. I work in a full, or always have until my very recent retirement, in a full spectrum crime and medical legal lab. So I was one of a team on cases. I would work with people from fire and arson or hair and fibers or DNA or forensic dentistry or whatever. I was one of a team that would work on a case. And I think Tempe does that as well in the book. So I wouldn't say she's not a good team player. She just doesn't, she gets along better with some than others. And Skinny Slidell is one of the more difficult ones.
They seem to form kind of a bond, though, towards the end.
I love Skinny. I think he's my favorite character. When I created the books and also when we created the series, the TV series Bones, and this is why I agreed to go with the particular producers that I did. We wanted to put humor into the show and into the books. And that's a tough thing to do because each episode or each book is dealing with violent death. So it's a very delicate balancing act. You have to know when to put the humor in, where to put the humor in, and where not to put the humor in. And one of the best vehicles, I think, is dialogue. And writing dialogue for Skinny and Tempe is great for inserting humor into the story.
Yeah, they bounce off each other quite well.
They do. They spar.
Well, Temperance has gone through multiple decades, and she started low tech, and now she's in a more high tech world. What is more satisfying to write?
Oh, when journalists used to visit my lab, and they can't do that anymore because of DNA, everybody's DNA has to be on file in case there's a contamination issue. They would always be disappointed at how low tech anthropology is. We use calipers for measuring things. We use x-rays, of course. We use microtomes and saws, to cut bones and open things up. But we don't use a lot of high tech. We don't use gas chromatography or mass spectrometry. So it has evolved, certainly in the series, because, as I just said, she works with other experts. And I always try to bring in a different science to drive the solution to the mystery. I write good old-fashioned murder mysteries. Somebody gets killed, somebody gets caught. The difference is the solution is driven by science. And I don't want to just do bones after bones after bones in each book. And I do bring in a different aspect of forensic science in each of the books. So those may be perhaps becoming more complicated and complex, but I don't know that anthropology has evolved to much more sophisticated technology.
Good point. Oh,
Yes.
Who knew? Your other series, Virals, you write with your son, Brandon. Do you have any trouble shutting down the mom aspect and becoming a writing partner instead?
Yeah, Brendan. Brendan is an attorney. My oldest and my youngest are attorneys, both of whom have quit practicing law to write. Brendan practiced for about 2 years and hated it. So he said he loved law school. He just didn't like practicing law. So he came to me and asked, why don't we do a young adult series together? So I said, sure, why not? Let's give it a try. He is a litigator, so he's very good at arguing his case. So we divided it up well because he's better at some things and I'm better at other things. Our young adult books, they're bigger, they're thick honking books. Young kids want their money's worth. They want a big book. So the stories are just as complex. What's different is the dialogue. Obviously, 14, 15-year-old kids don't talk like skinny Slidell. And the social concern for the kids. So he was better at those things. I was better at the science and plotting. And then we would write our separate sections, or however we divided that particular part up. And then we would have editorial meeting, or I would go over the manuscript in hard copy with a red pen, literally. He would claim I was destroying his art. Then we would have our editorial meetings and, we would close the door and we would be co-authors, not mom and son, and we would work it out. So we did 6 books together. So I think we struck a working balance.
Are you still writing books with him?
No, basically he dumped me. After we did the Viral series, 3-book series called Nemesis, Genesis, Chrysalis. Then he did I don't know if it was 2 or 3-book series called The Dark Deep, which skewed a little bit younger. Genesis skewed a bit older, more high school. And The Dark Deep skewed younger, it was middle school. So he went on to do those 2, and he is now doing other things on his own as well. Maybe one day we'll do something together. He's starting to make noises about, he might shift to adult and we could do something together as an adult book.
Oh, that would be neat.
I have to say, when you were talking about him not liking law, I work in a law office, so I get it.
Yeah, he didn't give it that long. My daughter practiced for, 6 or 7 years until she had to accept or reject a partnership. So she gave it a shot and then decided to become a full-time writer. Or she took a sabbatical from the law firm. They gave her a sabbatical, but she decided that sabbaticals very much agreed with her, and she did not go back to practicing law.
What does she write?
She writes contemporary women's literature. She likes to take issues, particularly issues in which technology has evolved beyond legislation to regulate it. For example, one of her books deals with the issue of embryos. What if you freeze embryos and then, there's a divorce, and then one party wants to use them and the other party wants to destroy them? There's no law to regulate that. So she likes to take issues like that and create fictional scenarios.
Oh, that sounds
Yes,
interesting.
that's and perfect timing.
And what is her name?
Carrie, Kerry, Carrie Reichs.
Oh, okay.
She's got 3 books out there with HarperCollins.
Very good.
Well, sadly, after 12 seasons of Bones, it's done. But it will always live on in reruns. Every time I turn it on, I see it on. Do you have any other plans for any other TV work?
Right now, because I did option the character, I really should find the answer to this. I'm not sure if the character has reverted to me or if Fox, which is now Disney, still holds the option. I don't think we would ever do any more Bones because David has moved on. David Boreanaz, he's doing SEAL Team, and Emily has moved on. She's doing something else. Everybody's moved on, actually. I could see us doing a reunion thing. That's kind of popular now. You have a one-off reunion thing. But unless Fox, Disney, wanted to do a feature film, I'll see Temperance Brennan being on the big or little screen, on the little screen again. But, who knows? If I create a new character, maybe. I've got a short story coming out on Audible, I think it is, in an anthology coming out in the fall, I think. So maybe that character, but nothing concrete right now.
Speaking of the character aspect of optioning for television, the TV Temperance was so different from your book Temperance. Was that did that stick in your craw, or did that really have any problems?
No, I really like the fact, and I think of TV Tempe and book Tempe. They are different. Book Tempe's older. She's more polished. She's in the Carolinas and Quebec, whereas TV Tempe is younger, taller, very socially awkward. She's in Washington, D.C. at the Jeffersonian. Yeah. And I like that when I go to write a book, I'm not impacted by what TV Tempe is doing. Partly that was the showrunner who wrote the pilot, Hart Hansen, created the character that way. Partly it was Emily, the way she played the character. I think she did a brilliant job of it. Obviously it worked. I mean, we're in literally every foreign territory around the world. And, we went 12 seasons. We're the longest running scripted drama in the history of Fox. So whatever Emily did with that character, people liked it. And that was our goal. We wanted to create a character-based show, not just a police procedural, but a show in which the viewers would become engaged with the characters. They would come to care about the characters. So I think we accomplished that. And I think if you binged all 12 seasons and watched what Emily did evolving that character, I think it was pretty brilliant what she did.
I've always been a fan of your books. And when I first saw that, I was excited and I thought, oh, we're going to go through all the books.
Nope.
We didn't.
No. They optioned one book, which gave them the option to the character. So the show was really based on the Temperance Brennan character, but also on me and my career. And then Hart Hansen did a very clever thing that we thought my readers would get a kick out of, kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, where the Temperance Brennan on the TV show, in her spare time, she's a full-time forensic anthropologist, but in her spare time, she writes novels about a fictional anthropologist named Katy Reichs. So we had a lot of fun with that. We did a number of episodes on that.
Now that you mention it, I do remember that. That's clever.
Now, what are you writing now?
I'm currently working on book 22, which will be called, we're pretty sure it will be called The Bone Hacker. Don't know what to give away. The Bone Hacker, the title suggests there's maybe some cybercrime involved, but also bodies are turning up. In this one, Tempe has some tough duty. She has to go to the Turks and Caicos Islands for various reasons.
Dang.
Yeah, a man from the Turks and Caicos dies in Montreal, and she ends up having to go down there. And a series of homicides takes place in which the hands are hacked off. So the Bone Hacker. See what I'm doing there? Double meaning.
Well, Kathy, it was great talking to you. We are mega fans of Temperance Brennan, however we can get her, even if it's in reruns. But we do enjoy the books immensely, and we always look forward to the next Temperance Brennan book that's coming out.
Well, thank you, and I hope you like Cold, Cold Bones.
I enjoyed it. It was just very good and a good walk down memory lane. And I liked your twist and turn because I didn't figure out who did it until you revealed it.
Well, good. Then I did my job.
Yeah. Kathy, you enjoy your sunny day, and we will look forward to The Bone Hacker.
Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too, Kathy. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Well, that wraps up another episode. We thank Kathy for visiting with us. We are big fans of her work and her television program. We are sorry to see it end. We hope you enjoyed this program and you will join us next week. And remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery.
bye.